Welcome to the Magdalene Codes. I'm your host, Valeria Marie Tignini, and I've been inspired to create this podcast to inspire all of you to connect to a different frequency that is brought to the earth in recent times. These Magdalene Codes are becoming very prevalent to humanity, and it's important to understand them coming from all different people here on the planet right now. And so the Magdalene Codes are different frequencies from engagement to fully forego the attachment into Source God. The codes are a spectrum of divine feminine meets divine masculine, which merge here on the planet. Hence, no gender or personality, but simply the dissection of the pure essence of love. Okay, hi everyone. We are with Honi Borden, and she is a magnificent woman. She has been bringing in the Magdalene Codes for how many years now, honey?
7 years.
Wow, for 7 years. And it feels like it's becoming more and more prevalent and more important for us to bring in these codes through men and women alike. We're both bringing in the codes, both genders. And it's because it feels like this past 7 to 8 years, the divine feminine and masculine are starting to merge. And so we're able to bring in these codes through Magdalene because she herself was embodying that. And so I'm really excited about today. Today is International Women's Day. And as I was talking to Honi before we start recording, that it feels like we are pulling in the energy from the earth as well from the cosmic codes as well. So these two energies are fusing together so that we may have an experience of the upper chakras and the lower chakras, to tune in both of those and merge together as a whole being. And it also feels like this meeting that I'm having with you, Honi, is that it's like an ancient sister. And I feel so expanded right now, and especially in my heart. I almost want to cry, but but you look so beautiful, and I'm so grateful to have you today, especially for the first Magdalene Codes podcast. I've been looking for this myself, and then I said, I'm just gonna start it. So I'm excited to have you, and I'm sure everybody is going to be excited to have you to listen in now.
Thank you so much, Valeria. It is truly an honor and a privilege to unite at this time. However, where our soul journey, the journey and agreement that we come together really to kickstart us today on this very sacred day that I know is very important to you, as it's been very important to me for several years in celebrating it with the Women's Circle. And the frequency of Magdalene, particularly, that you and I are both so devoted to. And it is a Venus Friday today, so the energy is even more special. The feminine Christ that I have been truly devoted to, and as we get into it, what that means, and the living codes of life through Magdalene and Yeshua, and particularly the Magdalene codes, what they really mean to me, and to help support you. When I saw the Magdalene codes that you were doing this, it's like, of course, like I usually lay the foundation and all of that, doing the planetary work, which we'll get into as well, to go set the frequency, to pull in these frequencies into the land. So of course, anybody, a lot of the communities and anybody that's kicking off, starts something, I happen to be called. Let me just turn this up because I don't want my, just one moment, please. I don't want um, uh, the, uh, the Facebook is coming in. I don't want them to be coming in. Okay, there you go. So I usually go and assist that. Being a Taurus in this incarnation, I go first and just sort of like pile up and dig it and start bringing the frequency in. So It is truly a privilege, and I'm really excited all that we will discuss to help support the awakening of the Magdalene codes inside others, and to help them really rise, and that which is already called to many others, many of the other seeds that are on the planet. And in addition, the celebration of each of us that are bringing and honoring the Magdalene codes through the way in which she is asking us to bring it forth, which I feel is very important in that sisterhood, and the sisterhood of the white rose, you know, and the white dove. That there's so much involved with this, and so I couldn't be more excited. And also, the proper pronunciation of my name is Honi. It's
Oh,
HoniB.
honey.
So honey, like what you eat.
Yes,
It
it's
is. So
interesting because of the bees. And
exactly.
what
So
does it mean?
so the full name is actually Hani, which means the mother of honey. And my name starts with the the feminine sound of the universe. And then the in Arabic means the mother of. I am a mother in this incarnation. And for me, a lot of my work is the mother energy, the feminine, the sacred mother energy on the land. And Mother Mahani was a feminine character. She is a legend in Islam. She was the cousin of Prophet Muhammad, who was the first female fighter in the battles of Karbala with her and her son. So it was a mother-son team that they did their thing. And I don't really resonate so much with the religion aspect of it, but for 3 months when I was born, I didn't have a name until my mom decided a name should be given to me, and her cousin told this story to her, and so she said that had to be my name.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Where are you from?
So I was incarnated in this incarnation in the Middle East. I was born in Iran. And I was there until 11, until we emigrated to United States.
Amazing. And actually, Mary Magdalene is half Iranian.
She, there's quite a bit around that conversation, which would be very interesting. Then I learned quite a bit later, which again we'll get into, regarding why it was so important in my soul to incarnate into the Middle East to bring her frequency through, and especially is in Iran, which is very, very closed off, and also through her sexual energy, her creative energy, and also to go through the forgiveness of the sexual abuse to bring it in. So there's just so much involved in here, from that imbalanced masculine to the sacred divine masculine, which we're pouring in to bring the balance onto the planet. So,
Well, and I'm wondering, how did you start to awaken to those codes? What happened? Was it a natural progress, or was it someone gave you a book? What was it that initiated those codes?
Well, let's go back a little bit, because my awakening really began when I was 7. So I was in a fatal car crash with parents, and we were on our way to visit the ancient ruins in Iran. And as a child, I had a lot of fascination with ruins, and especially I did a lot of art and writing a lot of light language. And so as going there, I had a premonition about this, and we experienced a very sort of like tragic fatal car crash. But yet from that extreme tragedy, I don't really, though I have those memories, I experienced something profound, or what we call mystical. So I experienced moving out of my body to a higher state of consciousness, and that's when I first discovered our multidimensional state of true beingness. And so from there, I was able to do what we would, in our terminology on Earth, we would consider not humanly possible, yet it was very possible because everything was weightless and what have you. So when I was returned back to my body, my entire perception of reality shifted, where I was, as children, we were already open anyway, but it took me to another level where I began being able to physically experience higher dimensional beings, and particularly spirits and angels and beings going in and out through the walls, being able to see angels fully, ascended masters, and also extraterrestrial star brothers and sisters. So I was able to experience quite a bit at a very young age, and of course those are some of the things that really kickstart everything else. And I was able to sort of see world through a very different lens, and full recognition that I'm not from Earth, full recognition that I came from the stars and I came to serve humanity. And in many of my interviews, I've always spoken that I would tell my parents as a young child that I would always say, like, yeah, I'm around 5 years old, I would say, but Mom and Dad, I came to help the people of Earth. And I would draw these portals that I came from, and I knew I was with a twin. I was with another one, and my parents always wanted to know, but they're like, no, you didn't have a twin. But they didn't quite know what to do with me, because I experienced so much from extraterrestrial ships and higher dimensional beings, including ascended masters. So anyway, moving forward, we had to hide everything for a while, take it into suppression, until years later, then it came, it was brought forward. And birth of my sons quite a bit were contribution, but the fullness of the Magdalene codes really came from almost it's 7 years ago, January 8, 2012, where I physically actually died from an illness, and I experienced life after death. And that's where experiencing being on the spirit side, everything was revealed to me. So I experienced the revelation, and quite a bit took place there, including seeing many of my lives on earth, including the time of Christ, being in Lemuria, being in Atlantis. Full memory was given back to me. And being in the Isis temples, not reading it at all. So very direct experience. And then being able to, being sent back by Beloved Yeshua, who I met. And
How old were you?
So this was 7 years ago.
Oh.
This was on January 8, 2012, I died, and I was returned back. I was sent back, and as I was told, it's not time to be with them, as I had to come back and serve Earth and through the codes. And so the living codes have been a huge part, because I give everything and devoted to it. And there's been a whole lot to serve this on the actual land. So we'll discuss that a little bit more.
So you were being.
Do you
hear an echo?
Just a little bit, yes.
Okay. So you were being pushed by spirit, by the universe, to bring in these codes through your death. Is that what you?
Not pushed, my dear Valeria. When you experience, I don't know, have you met others who have crossed over and been sent back?
You know, I had a Kundalini experience, so to me, I felt like I died in that experience. I don't think I actually clinically died, but I know I did go to the other side, which is really nowhere. To me, heaven is from your heart chakra through your crown chakra. And when you have a full-blown Kundalini experience, you go through these chakras. And I'm not sure if that's what you experience, if you experience this.
There are some out-of-body experiences, there's plenty. The physical death is a very different experience. When you physically died, so when I physically died, my heart stopped, I did leave my body. So I was on the table, and my soul came out of the body, watched everything. And from there, moved forward, and the Archangel Haniel came and took me. And we went through a corridor in which you visit the other loved ones who've crossed over and they're waiting for you, or in my case, I went through a different section because I had to meet with the councils, with the Golden Council of 12. So the physical death of life after death is quite different, though sometimes individuals that have had out of body experience, they do experience the death of the ego, but it is different than death of the actual physical death when you cross over. So those of us who do cross over, we have a lot of similar experiences, as we do experience that light which you have heard of that is coming, and then we go see the tunnel, and we go there are areas that we experience, and but when we are sent back, when we meet the not physically in that place, it's a consciousness that meets. It's not even a light body anymore. When the consciousness meets the beings, in my case, when I met beloved Yeshua, very different when his supreme light that was brought forth. It is not a vibration in which on earth we know or we are accustomed to, because we can't even handle that frequency.
That's right.
We sometimes come to a glimpse of it, and even with that, we can't even hold the vibration, because it's the ultimate truth of who we are. And within that ultimate truth, we still are not yet, because we're mostly in carbon DNA, we're not fully crystallized yet. We can't hold the vibration, so then we get kicked out of that vibration, yet we are going through our ascension and our transformation. But those of us who've been sent back, we come back from a very different lens and vibration. And we are, especially when you have seen your soul review, you know why you came, everything has been revealed to you. You have become a resurrected being in that consciousness, in which they then begin to work with you. There is also those who have had out-of-body experience. They have changed vibrationally, absolutely, but it is still distinctionally different when we come in. So for me, I wasn't pushed, my dear. There was nothing else other than this.
Froze.
Be devoted to, you see. So there was just nothing else other than, when you experience something like that, there's nothing else other than complete devotion, complete giving up everything to be of service to it. And it began very much after that. First, within 3 days, I was completely healed, which in the medical community was considered like a miracle.
Yeah.
And then I went through separation with my husband, and went through, and then that was just the beginning, because then you have to hold the vibration, and you have to go through massive amount of tests. Can you handle this vibration to be of service to it? So then all the initiations from that began, and then getting on the road, living totally in trust of spirit, what they especially the Great White Brotherhood of Light, what they are asking you to bring forth. And of course, the forefront of it is Yeshua and Mary Magdalene. For me, in that case, that's what it was.
And so I always wonder, how were you connected to them previous to this?
So previously, I did, again, I incarnated as a female, and in a background of so-called my parents' Islam. So Christianity was not whatever. But as a child, it was very interesting. As a child, we had a Christian neighbor, and during Christmas and what have you, I would try to go over there, and all I ever wanted was, I was so like madly in love with Yeshua, and I had a big crush on him, or all I wanted I would always just see his picture, and that's all, like, I was so like madly in love with it, and I felt like I was his wife. I just felt so like I am his wife, and I remember as auditory, after my the car crash that I was in 7, I started receiving this one particular voice that came at a very specific time in my life. Auditory, I would hear him, and the presence that would just shake me to the core. And it wasn't until 7 years ago that I did meet Beloved Yeshua in spirit side, that I realized it's been him all along, that I just did not know. And so up until then, it wasn't because the one thing was I had gone to church. My former spouse was a Southern Baptist background, and going to church, it was just so difficult in the church because I felt like I knew something that was not this. I knew this was not the teaching of Beloved Yeshua. And there were all these knowings I had inside, but I felt very crazy because it wasn't supported by the outside at all. And I knew his love. He was the ultimate love with his beloved, and that's what I knew was the truth for me. It wasn't the marriage I was in. Beautiful marriage I had, beautiful man I was married to, but I knew that wasn't the truth either. I had to be exactly with the frequency of Yeshua, but it was just it felt like it was just a figment of my imagination, but yet it was so core and so true in my being that it made me feel also very crazy that maybe I'm making it up. See what I mean?
Yes. It's interesting that you say that you felt like it was always him in your life. And when I had my Kundalini awakening, Yeshua came to me, and I grew up in a Catholic family in a religion, but I left the religion long before because I was always looking for the truth myself. And Yeshua, and I told Yeshua, I said, I left you so long ago. And he said to me, but I've never left you. And so it feels similar. I can relate to this. So now that you're here today, what is the message that you need to bring forth? What are the Magdalene codes for you?
Thank you for that, Valeria. The Magdalene codes are the deepest core truth inside my being. And I feel it's their expression on earth that is very much the key. For me, the way I experience the sacred divine codes of Magdalene has been in various forms. Particularly as a planetary healer, I have been sent on the road. So I gave everything up, a suitcase and a half for 5 years on the road, very remote locations. And I was asked directly through Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, as well as Mother Mary, to bring these codes in. And the codes have been in sound frequency and language. And also it's been in movement. There's been some crazy things that I have had to do in the middle of absolutely nowhere and total trust, and not particularly places that are known on the planet because some of these grids have already been known, but working specifically with the land to help clear first the devastation energy of the withheld energy on the land, and then bringing the living codes of Magdalene. So for me, it's been in movement and sound, bringing the freedom and liberation to it, where the energy is vibrating in a very particular spiral energy. And so I would often be asked to create a ceremony on the land, and then the way they would work through me, I would have to, for example, my drum is a big one, I'm a drummer, and to bring the drum to start activating, to start connecting with the heart, the womb of Mother Earth. So there's been a lot of womb energy and a lot of water. Those have been the big two. And then clearing the dark energy of the land that has not allowed the feminine energy of Magdalene to rise, and to start clearing it through different specific rays of light. There's been different ones that I've had to work with. For a while, it was just the pure white ray. Then it changed to the pink ray. Then it changed to the magenta ray. So there's been then changed to the golden ray. Also the platinum ray. There's various rays, and the way they would come in, it would come through my different bodies down to my physical form, and then I would have to stand around and go into the movement, and I would enter a very deep trance in that place, and then a lot of hollering voices would come out. So often I've had to be alone, because it's a very altered state, and then clearing, and I would always have to wait afterwards and to see the confirmation that the work was done. So they were always the forefront, and I've gone through so much of my actual body transforming, because they've put me through tremendous amount of stuff, let's say, to be able to allow the vibration to come in. So the living codes of Magdalene for me has been first on the land, and then to bring that in which was, let's say, closed or hidden or suppressed, and not breathing her vibration, not breathing her sacredness, not breathing her truth, not breathing her elegance, not breathing her creativity or her sexuality, to help release this from the ground up. So through Mother Earth, all the way down through my womb, all the way to the Divine Mother, and allowing that toroidal field to start circulating, vibrating, and to help assist it, then bring the different dimensional frequencies through, particularly my Syrian family, Arcturian and Lyran and Andromedan family, then start bringing those in to help assist for the anchoring of the cities of light, and then working with the grids, with the dragons, to help connect them with the different parts of the planet, where the alchemy of Yeshua and Yeshua and Mary Magdalene is fully, best I can say, is breathing. That breath is very free. So
actually, I want to ask you. So the dragon energy has been very prevalent during this time. It's coming up and through many people, and it's been almost in recent times. I want to say in the last 3 years or so,
yes.
Maybe even less. And so I want to ask you: is it? So to me, the dragon is the breath of fire, and perhaps you can. I don't know if that's correct, but I feel this dragon energy also came with the year of the dragon, which is, it was in 2012, and actually my daughter was born that year. And it's also this catalyst energy that's burning through some of the people's mind construct and conditioning. So can you please elaborate on that? Because I know a lot of people have questions about that.
Yeah, so the dragons, there's quite a bit that I can share about the dragons. The dragon actually began in 2000, because the 1999 really completed the cycle, and the 2000 created the energy for finally the dragon beings that have been suppressed in the etherics to finally be able to come through. And that was where the first wave of the awakening of the planetary healers to step forward, particularly the starseeds, to start working with some of the grids, not all of them. So there are 3 different grid systems. I was assigned particularly to the 3rd grid system, which very few are assigned to that one. Most of the first and the second ones, they're the ones that are working with the crystals. I had to work with the etheric crystals to bring them here and to connect them deep into Mother Earth. And there's more around that. There's a lot more around that. Anyway, so the dragons, that energy really began in 2000, and it had to go through all the way to 2012 was a huge key in finally through the sacred ancient order of the white dragons to come together. Because if we step back a little bit further back, a few years before, the 1987 harmonic convergence played a huge part, because the energy of that came through where many souls incarnated into the say gay body, right, coming in as a gay soul. This was such a huge part of the beginning part of the Magdalene frequency coming in. And they had to really come to start shaking things up. And then there was the merging of the feminine energy. The feminist energy was before, but this was the feminine energy. Start shifting things out, so that sisterhood on the planet began, and then that wave came through. Then then there was this whole cycle had to end through this 2012, which several of us had our crazy experience in 2012, because all those cycles had to end so that the vibration was finally set on the planet for the Magdalene frequency to come in. So those of us who had worked with this frequency back in Lemuria, as well as Atlantis, as well as Egypt, and specifically those of us who were in the Temple of Isis, you know, we knew what we had to come back to bring forth, but we couldn't until 2012 was completed. And we couldn't, and we needed the assistance of the dragons, because the dragons had laid the grid line on Earth after particularly Atlantis, and they had hidden the keys and the codes within the grid line, so that when we were ready, we can awaken to them, to start remembering the Magdalene codes that were hidden in us, so that our 12 DNA can fully become activated and we can bring it forth very clearly. The dragons start, one of the things that happened through the movies, the dragons start coming forward, which was very important, though there was still some of the dark, but the beginning of it start coming to bring the activations through. And the Galactic Federation of Light has spoken about that as well. Then the connection between Magdalene and the Magdalene frequency and dragon is hand in hand, because it's so important. The sacred fire, it's a sacred fire through the dragons that is creating the transformation. It is not the burning, it is not that hell, it's none of that. It is the resurrection that is assisting. It's a very different consciousness, and that's why in many of the Western religion, anything to do with the serpent energy, dragon energy has been so forbidden, because it is the ultimate sexual divine energy of the sacred divine feminine, the creator energy. And the dragons have been the wisdom keepers of this knowledge in the etheric realms. Now some of us, such as me and some others, that have been able to experience the dragon from the etherics, literally being able to see them, or sometimes they materialize in before our presence, we began working with them. And so in my case, before I would create the ceremony on the land, I would need their assistance to help clear the grid where I was, so their sacred fire with the different flames could clear before I could bring the frequency of the purity of Magdalene through. So that's been very, very hand in hand. And there's a huge team of dragons that work with all of us. It was about last month that I actually went into a full channel. I am a TransMediumTransChannler, Valeria, and the ancient beings of the white dragon did come through, and they actually shared quite a bit about the team of the dragons that assigned to many of us that are doing their part, so that this rise for the humanity's ascension, which is the sacred divine feminine, and the leading front of it is the Magdalene consciousness. It is Magdalene is a consciousness in which we're tapping into, and we're awakening that within us. And when we're awakening that, we're bringing the magic of the dragons that have always been here. They just had to be suppressed after Atlantis, so we couldn't interact with them directly. So we had to start awakening that within us again. Hopefully that answers that a little bit.
Absolutely. And so now that we're here with this energy, these beings assisting us, how do you feel that we should access the codes? How do you feel that we should ask for this assistance?
Okay, so let me share this with you, Valeria. It is very glamorous to speak of light language, the codes of light, all the vibration, the sound vibration, dragons, and all of that. But it really comes down to very simple recognition. It's not even understanding. With Mary Magdalene, when she has spoken, it's been so clear. It is to live from this sacred divine feminine. And she has knocked on me several times, like wave at me like this. And she's like, remember, she keeps saying, remember, you have to live from love, act from love, make your choices from love. And that is the ultimate. The living codes, when we are working with them, what happens is that we are put in all kinds of situations, which we are now creating the timeline shifts through the living codes of Magdalene. Because that in which we used to, for example, let's say we're in the presence of something very unconscious, and then we come into that before probably we would address it from that same level of energy, that level of unconsciousness or retaliation or, rebellion. Yet now with the living codes of Magdalene, you have no choice but to bring love through you, in you, into that space, into that encounter, into that situation. And it was going to repeat over and over and over until you get it. So for example, when we finished our Europe tour in September, and the last part was Morocco, Michael and I were put in so many crazy situations, and then each time we had no choice but to bring the love of that sacred Magdalene Codes through. So it's become very tangible and very, very tangible. Are you living it? Because you cannot BS this. It's going to repeat so much till you are so anchored, and you're anchored so deep within your womb, so deep within your heart cord, so deep in your feminine Christ, so deep into Mother Earth's diamond heart energy, where there's nowhere you're going. You're just right in the center of it. And that's what I feel is very important. So it's not so much to, there is an awakening on the planet through the awakening of love. And really the power of love, the power of it is such sweetness. And that truly, she's the forefront in bringing, because she embodied the truth of that presence in the most difficult conditions. And she always says, it's beautiful when she speaks, she said, we went through a lot during that time. You guys have it a lot easier. And, and so, she's like, we made it a lot easier for you guys, so that way you can go through. You don't have to go through the way we went. And it's so true. Absolutely. It's so true. Look at what's available to us.
Absolutely.
It only, and that is the greatest initiator here. The initiator of the Magdalene Code is every dance encounter situation that we face. And that's where we're positioned here, to bring the love to it. That's all. It's so simple, yet it is the most difficult job that we signed up for to deliver, because that's what we came for.
And that's
or in the etherics, it's no longer in the mental plane. It must be brought into the emotional body, physical body, and right here, tangible. Sorry.
No, it's okay. My feeling is that that Mary Magdalene she's not just she's not just a person, because people are connecting to her as just a body. And the funny thing is, so many people want to know, what does she look like, and what does she really, where does she come from, and all these questions.
Looks like you, a little bit darker skin.
Yes.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. But it doesn't matter what she looks like. She is not. This is why the codes are important. She is every woman. She is all of us. And she's embodying also the masculine. She is
living consciousness, Valeria.
She's living consciousness.
And there is actually, like how we have the Sacred Order of White Rose, we have the Councils of Light, we have the Rays of Light. We actually have, and I actually didn't know this till more recent, when I was actually sitting on the Isis chair in the south of France. And right away, as soon as when I started going into trembling, going into the channel, and I received the Magdalene Consciousness. That was the first time Magdalene Consciousness came through me to speak of what's been forgotten in women and men. And I was like, wow, there's an actual consciousness. And then I experienced it again when we went to Glastonbury, when we were doing the work for the fall equinox. And it was again the Magdalene Consciousness. I said, oh my goodness. So she has spread her seeds in all of us.
Yes.
So that's why so many in the last, you know, you wouldn't really hear so much of Mary Magdalene 7 years ago, even 5 years ago.
That's right.
The red tent goddess circles for several years, and I was bringing the ancient wisdom of the woman through the goddess, and like through the holy blood, like everything that's embedded in the holy blood. But Mary Magdalene was sharing. I couldn't verbalize so much of Mary Magdalene back in like 6 years ago, you know. It was only like about 3 years ago or something, this opening opened up. It was 4 years ago to be exact. Opening up where we can fully bring it, because finally the frequency holds it. And those of us who have been clearing the land, opening it up, this is finally allowed in the stratosphere on Mother Earth. The vibration is allowed and is awakened in the people, and not just woman in form, male in form, to bring it through.
Yes, this consciousness, this being is coming to many different kinds of people from all over the world, from any kind of religion. It's not just what she looks like. It's not where she comes from. It's the consciousness. And she's bringing this frequency, this love frequency. And to me, Mary Magdalene is not just this cosmic being. She's also Mother Earth herself. It's both, like, again, pulling in those two energies. And it feels complete. There is no, she's connected to all the goddesses. She's connected.
Absolutely.
She's connected to all the masters, the masters that were here on this plane. And she is the absolute she. Yes. And it's that divine feminine mastery of that we're trying to encode. And this energy I feel like is gifting us, yes, each of us, our own codes to bring to, like you said, to the planet. Yes. And we all have our own gifts.
Absolutely. And it is, you know, like a couple of things that I feel is important to address, my dear, is, for example, one of the was 4 years ago, I was positioned in south of France. I've been positioned in south of France for that like 9-9 frequency, that 9-9 portal, for 4 years. And I was working on the land and bringing through which parts have to be to bring her through. One of the things that she said, the suppression of my voice, there are few of us that have been asked to bring her voice through. So me and one of I call him my galactic gay brother. He's incredible, but he's a former physician that gave everything up to move to south of France in honor of Mary Magdalene, to help bring her voice through. So him and I were collaborating on the land, and so we were shown through Isis what part we needed to be so that we can bring the frequency. But at that time, it was the platinum ray. She wanted us to bring it. And so Mary Magdalene had said, my voice has been suppressed. My voice has to be brought through. So that's why sound, if you notice the last 2 years, there's sound healing everywhere.
Yes.
You suppress. So sound is sound healing, because that's that wave of opening her voice coming in. But her voice is the consciousness of the voice of here that is coming in. So at that time, for example, 4 years ago, when we were doing the work on the land, and we had to she was working to bring the voice through like my physical vessel, and I was seeing on the plane, like through Europe, every area that was suppressed, this voice had to come through. So there is a very visceral experience of the voice coming, the sexual energy coming in, because the leakage of the sexual energy both in women and men. And there's been so much about, like, for example, Tantra, Kundalini, this, but a lot of leaking energy, not the true creative power of that sexual energy, which Mary Magdalene knew what it is to co-create the goods on earth. those of us that know that, we know that's a whole different energy.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we don't use our lower three chakra for that. We're gonna have to include all 22 codes in here and bring it through. There's like a entire different consciousness, and at some point other ones would catch up to it. But those of us who know, we're working with this very differently. So these things had to come forward before her sacred frequency can be accepted and not resisted. So in each of us, in our own individual home, in our own individual, particularly family, we've had to rise up in this state. We've had to become vocal. We've had to, face all of those resistance to allow the Magdalene frequency first come through us before we can fully share it with others. And it is a very visceral experience. I keep saying visceral because it's moved from this idea of the imagine or fantasy. It has had to be brought and pulled in, but so boldly, so beautifully, so courageously, to take through the entire emotional body and the water within, to help clear the water of the planet before we can embody it into earth. So I've taken it very seriously, because it's been, to me, there's been nothing more truth than this. And
Well, it's the thing about the water is that it's starting to, like you said, we have to clean the water. It's starting to become contaminated, and to me, this is a symbol of the contamination of the truth of the feminine. And so we do need to focus more on the water, and also the water is, to me, is also this fluidity that we all need to kind of flow with. And so many people are wanting to ascend, wanting to activate or have a Kundalini awakening, but you really need to be in this fluidity of like the water, because we need to just be and allow for the divine to touch us in that way. And it'll come because as we said, the consciousness is here now, and it's just a matter of time before it touches you.
And it's so wonderful you said that, Valerie, because divine is housing into our vessel, but it cannot house in through all these 144 dimensions that is trickling down to come into this form, right? We've connected to spirit, is amazing. We've connected to etheric, it's amazing. We've certainly expanded the conscious mind. The minds have expanded, but the emotional body that is tied into the water of the planet of Mother Earth, with her intuition and creativity and the sexual energy, it's been so, it's been exactly just impure. So the impurity cannot allow the divinity to come in. That's why we've had to go clear our housing, so divine can't come in. Till all of these emotions, every single one of them, have been met with grace. It's been met with love. It's been addressed. It's not been suppressed, so that we remove it from this, how it's been diluted, diluted, and then taking into the purity. So the purity flame is then really rising, and then it has to be anchored into the earth. And the new earth is very clean. She's a living angel. Like, it's just, oh my God, it's so clean. So anything that's not in the vibration of this purity will kick it out. And so that's why we are massively, and again, us in female form incarnation, and those of us who chose to incarnate in this last human incarnation, we chose to also sign up for everything, every lesson, every difficulty, every trauma, everything into one, so that we can bring the highest level of transmutation, clearing the water, so that we can rise properly in it. And this ties into the whales and the dolphin masters. Like, it's just so interconnected, so
Yes.
so deeply. And once we experience that, we really experience just the oneness. So that's why it gives us the fuel is the flame that gives us the power to go through it so deeply, and do what we need to do together with Mother Earth's heartbeat. Like, it's very bold and courageous. And seriously, it's not for everyone. Those of us who are in the front line, we've chosen to go that deep to help open the ways for the other ones to come, so they don't have to go through it as um, as difficult, because we agreed to go and be the forefront runners of it.
And I like that you're saying we have to be the forefront mothers of it. And I feel that there's so many of us now that are bringing in these codes. As I scour the internet and as I meet people like you, and then I find all these other connections, it happens like all at once, where I'm meeting all of my ancient sisters from Lemurian, Atlantean time and beyond, even back home in Sirius and back in the Galactic. But the thing is that we're not limited to this experience. We're not limited to just having this lifetime, or even or just limited to the other experiences as well. We're experiencing it all at once, and it feels like we're all incorporating these different lifetimes into this current incarnation, and we're aware of that. And our awareness has been so multidimensional that we're getting a bit confused because of the different experiences that are coming through all the time. And it's tremendous because it's hard to even verbalize what's happening. And so these codes are infiltrating us it feels like almost like in drips, and then it feels like a flood. And it's only because whatever is happening on the planet with humanity, the collective humanity, we have to hold that energy like almost like like an obelisk.
Well, it's interesting you say that. A couple of things that you share. We're moving from all the artificial timelines and all the timelines from all lifetimes and the multiverses and this verse, and we're bringing it into the divine timeline. The divine timeline is a very different timeline in which, again, I feel in my experience, the Magdalene frequencies is a huge, gigantic part of it, because it is in total flow and it is in the grace of it. It is in the highest purity in that place, and it is it requires massive courage. And the courage is, for example, those of us who are mothers who are called to this. I often speak of this. I feel like in the past, when there was a man who had the calling and he would have to give everything up and go, he was celebrated. In my case, and many others like me, when we had the call and we went, if anything, we were so how you say, we've been judged, we've been criticized, we've been disowned, we've been all of that, which is very much, again, just to go back and remember the frequency that Magdalene faced when she walked on earth. Yeah. So we've had to be so shamed because we're following the calling that is not in the regular consciousness. And then we've had to face that, to start bringing that love also into it, and to demonstrate that when there is that calling comes in, it's so much bigger. So it's that bigger part of ourselves, that the I am presence, that the I am that is coming in. And that I am, it is the above as below. We're bridging this. We're bringing heaven on earth. We're bringing the living codes through us and living it. And it requires mad courage, mad respect. It really takes so much. You have to be so connected to your womb, because you have to connect to the womb of the universe as the container. You become the container.
Yes.
You become yourself the container, so that everybody else can come into that space, and they too become, and then it's like a rippling effect of that. So that's why the living codes, there were phases of it, that phases by phases, because not everybody could handle it at once. we had to come to start bringing it through to open in the fields, bring it through the grids, opening up the fields of it, so that it can start to become, and then becomes like how much we see now Magdalene everywhere, which is amazing.
It's amazing.
And the most powerful part, though it made me so angry, I don't know about you, Valeria, when the Vatican finally on
the sound.
Magdalene is.
Can you repeat that? I don't think I heard. Oh, so the internet connection's unstable.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if you remember when the Vatican, it was a couple years ago, that announced that Mary Magdalene, they're going to announce her as the 13th apostle.
Yes.
Okay. You don't know the angriest post I post on my fan page, but yet at the same time, Mary Magdalene's like, calm down. I was like, okay, but I still like, I have so much to say about this, but yet I recognize how important that was, because it's the waves and the waves till the total truth comes out. Yes. You and I, with Stellar, Valerie, there's so many, we know there's a lot of truth we know, but the cleaning up is taking place first before this truth can come in, so it doesn't resist. There's not much resistance anymore. You Absolutely. See,
Yes, and that to me is the drip.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Drip. This
exactly.
Small cleaning up, small, introducing the divine feminine, and one day we the thing is, all these temples needed to be built because it had to hold the energy, because the planet was not it was going through a period of ascension. And so the temples, the obelisk, the whatever vortexes, they needed to be contained. Yes. But now everything needs to be open and expanded. And so, and that's what I was saying, that we are the actual obelisk. We are the temples now. And so people come to see people like us to receive those codes and be blessed and be receive the information that they need to, or whatever it is that they need from us. And I think it's growing. I see it exponentially growing, this sisterhood. And it breaks my heart, going back to International Women's Day. It's not just about us being a woman. It's about us being together, supporting each other, loving each other, holding each other, and being there for each other at all costs, and never looking down on each other.
And that's coming along, and I feel there's a lot more of that. And I feel that as women are embracing their womb, embracing their holy blood, embracing these past several years through the Galactic Federation of Light, one of the things doing on the land has been to this my gosh, this sacredness of every tiny drop of my holy blood being given back to the land. There's been so much of that. And Yeshua speaking of what really that is, how sacred it is. So when the woman remember to connect with that blood, that holy bit, the ultimate holiestness of us is that blood, and then give it back to the land, we're able to create, we're able to open the fields of consciousness in the collective energy. So finally, all these bloodshed can go away. I mean, there's just so much around this, but still, women are disconnected to that, and there are a lot more that are connected through all the different sistership and also the circles. Yet we still have plenty that are not. So the work still continues. But those of us who are become the living codes, like I consider myself as a living code of Magdalene light. I consider you the same. We've become we're no longer working with it. We are it. The living code, and as I've experienced over and over, it's no longer I'm working doing it. It is being done through me. Yes. It's taken an entire different figures, because I now just get to observe how the majestic elegance of it, that I could seriously, like, I couldn't do it on my own, because I can't even fathom how some of these are put together, but just the divine presence of it, when we put in situation, but in such elegance, like just the perfect dance, like it's like a dance of the cosmos just comes through, and no effort, and just as a witness in that multidimensional experience, just get to witness it, like, wow, this is like literally working through me. I can't own it. It's not mine. I
Yes.
I'm just the vessel of allowing it, and it is very humbling.
Yes, and the thing is, you have this remembrance of all these different lifetimes of where you've connected to that. It's not, it's part of your genetic code, and you're bringing it forth from those lifetimes. And I don't even, I'd like to call it past lives, because it's present, it's right now. And so you are experiencing that, and it's hard to feel any separation, because it is you. It's your code. It's your internal code. And it is, you've always been that. It's just you're remembering that now.
Absolutely. And that beautiful art of remembering is the art of allowing, which becomes the art of loving and the art of living. And I feel that that's why past lives are important, because there are, like you said, they're part of the present, and anything that was not in that harmony, that was in dissonance, is now being brought into this incarnation in its beautiful, wondrous way to become harmonized again. And so that's why it's so important, so that we don't co-create future realities with a dissonance energy. Everything is in harmonized, everything is back in that same, really the same song, just that same heart song that is within the heart of the universe. So, and I feel when we are consciously very aware of it, we become again so attuned in the art of allowing, becomes the forefront, sort of like administrator, or the creator aspect of it. So I feel like the consciousness kind of sits back a little bit and just watches this unfolding. It's a very fascinating experience, because a lot of memories are awakening as the DNA has shifted to higher strands, and just it finally remembers all of these things, and then it doesn't, after it doesn't resist it anymore, it just becomes fluid. And it's like water, it has to constantly move, otherwise it becomes a stinky, terrible.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
It becomes stale, it becomes still, and we need to constantly be fluid. And this word actually has become so popular now, with fluidity of gender, fluidity of being. And it's funny, because I feel like about 2016, I was feeling this divine feminine and masculine coming together, and it was going to bring a lot of confusion amongst humanity. And women are becoming more masculine, men are becoming more feminine, and there's becoming almost a separation rather than a coming together. And I feel, again, Magdalene is doing this again, because we need to separate so that we can see our true selves and then come back as a whole. But in embodying both masculine and feminine, where we balance ourselves, we need to balance those energies. Women don't need to become masculine to compensate, to be more powerful in this world. And men do not need to become feminine to compensate what they've done in the past. Yeah. And it feels like they're running a guilt, especially the masculine.
Yes, very, very good point. I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's a huge part of, it's a huge part of the conversation now, because there's such a beauty in many of the conscious men that are allowing this beautiful sacred feminine in, yet there's been this resistance towards their masculinity, because they recognize the masculinity has created so much harm on the planet, which absolutely. And then then there's been the woman who, again, we've had to find our power, the masculine forefront, doing whatever, the sleeves roll up. I'm one of them. I know you're one of them. And so recognizing we don't need a man. We can get everything done, and if anything, better. We can create anything, if not better. Everything is like even more great. And then recognizing, wow, like, okay, then that's creating demasculization. So then learning how to then face the sacred divine feminine within. And that's been a huge part, I feel like, with the assistance for me. Valeria has been a huge support with Mary Magdalene Consciousness, because I am in a sacred divine union relationship, and there's just constantly that communication, like, okay, like, you cannot lead this with your masculine, which has been majority of my life. You have to lead it with your sacred divine feminine, and that has more power. You got to step back and come this way, which has been allowed to experience, again, to keep stepping back, being the container more, stepping back container in trust, so that the masculine can fully live from its sacred divine masculine. And I feel that separation has been a huge part, because we also have had to see that. We've had to see the suppression, and then the rise, and then choosing from somewhere in between. And the alchemical marriage within each of us has had to take place, like, and embracing both of our parts, like, totally in a balanced state. And I feel we're getting there, where we're I know, for example, personally, I feel like I've become more balanced in that. I'm not yet still totally harmonized, because I'm still working through a few more things, and but I'm getting better and better and better at it. The embracing my sacred divine masculine, which the other part of it within us in female form, we have endured so much of the hurt of the masculine inside of us, and then giving rise to our masculine, which we've had to also then go through all of that, and just embracing the masculine, and fully embracing the feminine, and bringing in divine into it. So it's been a very interesting, again, multidimensional experience of being a witness and not resisting, going through it, being very truthful, very raw, very honest, and being a witness to where it has to become harmonized, because that's what we're called to bring it onto planet.
And let me ask you, so you are in a sacred divine relationship, and so what are some of the things that you want to share with the audience in regards to what are some practices or some advice as to allow for this relationship to blossom and grow?
Wow, there's a whole lot on that. we do teach workshop on the sacred divine union, and we're only sharing what feels truth to us, and what we've gone through, literally facing so much and come through on the other side. And very grateful for social media and Facebook as a platform where you can just stand before audience and be very raw and very truthful. I feel the most important part is those who are seeking relationships, just relationship, this is not for them. If somebody's called, really called, and there is a calling to sacred divine union. For me, about 9 years ago, there was a vision from Spirit given to me that this person will be coming into my life. At that time, I was married. That we'll be sharing together, and we will be examples of Yeshua and Mary Magdalene on the planet. And at that time, I was freaking out, because I was married, my business, my house, my husband, all my children. Like, it's like, and I'm such a devoted wife, and it's like, ooh, like. And I kept seeing me and this man on the stage with so many people and so many different. It's like, what is this? I was freaking out, because I wanted to push it away as far as possible. So when there is a calling of a sacred divine union, it requires tremendous work, tremendous authenticity, rawness, willingness to first see every flaw within yourself and every truth within yourself, and have the power to speak it. The ability to communicate is huge, which you can't suppress anything. And because you're seen in the presence of each other, and because the divine is the witness. And I find that in sacred divine union bond, you're coming together, and it's on pure purpose and service to humanity. And it is for humanity's ascension. It is to serve Mother Earth. It is not, if you have anything to do with your lower three chakras for your personal gains, sacred divine union is not it, because you don't come to that place. You don't come in a union for that. There's a very sacred fuel that then is given to you, like as a present. Here's the fuel. We're going to give this to you so that it will be your fuel to get through. And that means you have to handle it with so much grace, just the same grace that handed it to you. And which means every impure part of you is going to be faced. Every part of you that is vulnerable, that has to adjust it, will be faced. So it really requires massive amount of work, and massive amount in the most beautiful way. And most people have this idea of this fairy tale. You come together, okay, my David, you're okay, it's crazy chemistry, it's amazing, la, da, 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 we're serving and outside. But that's really not it. Yes, there is magic, yes, and you constantly pulling magic through, but it's just purely to serve good on the planet, and to serve the highest good on the planet. So I feel your intention, your devotion has to really be checked in. Your ego cannot at all take a part in this union at all. It has to fully be humbled in the back, and the heart must lead. So the heart has to be very open, and the ability to hear each other in most difficult way, and to be honored and celebrated. And I feel there's more and more men that are also feeling called to that, and they're becoming, and I feel as sisters, we're holding the vision of the men that can. They're becoming more available. And I remember like, oh my God, a few years ago, I was like, oh my God, I would see another sacred sister of mine finally with her beloved, and I was like, oh my God, that's me next, that's me. And I knew, so I would get excited and celebrate. It's happening, because I knew it was coming. But with each one, I had to go deeper inside, get prepared. I had to prepare the container for his arrival. And that was exactly what Mary Magdalene did. She had to prepare for Yeshua to come to help his resurrection, which most people don't know that.
Right.
And you and I know that. And so I feel in a sacred divine union, it's both of the homes coming together in that diamond energy, where the supreme diamond is shining through. And so every debris has to be cleaned up from this. It can't.
Yes. And it's like you were saying, you can't operate from the lower chakras. It has to be, the union is first and foremost in the upper chakras, coming from the heart. The heart's the bridge to those other chakras. And when we come from there, not calculating, oh, is this person good for me to have service with, or even because those thoughts come through as well. Will he or she be a good person for me to grow with? It doesn't matter. The first thing that you have to connect is here in the heart, and then everything else will reveal itself.
Yeah, and there is the heart is a very important part, because the container is the heart. And as Arcturians have shown me, it comes here at this heart first. Then these two, the solar plexus and the throat, begin that vibration, communication. Then the vision and the sexual energy begin communion with each other before the bodies are brought together. Then the bodies brought together. So then this takes place. Then the Earth Star Chakra and this the Soul Star Chakra coming together. So there's like the merging is so incredible, and it's a multi-dimensional merging of all of our bodies from all lifetimes also coming together. So it is a very intense, beautiful, magnificent, difficult, challenging, highly sacred experience, because sacred becomes, and I feel like the usual, that's why I laugh at all the tantra stuff they teach on the planet. It's like, no, because
Lower chakras.
it's not, because when we experience, like I remember there's few practices Michael and I got into, and I remember the guidance of Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, like how we use the breath, and we go through the breath to just come in this, there's this sacred space to come, and we hold that image. There's the image, like we've had a lot of experience with portals and pyramids opening up above my crown, and I have to go through different dimensions, bring information through, and then he has to know what to do, or voices are coming out in the middle of intimacy. Like there's just, it's not the average by any means. And that's why I feel like any of us experience that we can't ever go back to regular sex or tantra, all of this, like it's just all the stuff they teach with masturbation, all of that, they all have had their place.
Yes.
But there's an entire different cosmic force that is being brought in, and it's the, like, whenever we have to have a different vision, we go in this space, and then the vision is given, then I bring it in. And so it's like, and we look at, then we start like laying it out what it is, and then we decode it. So it's like it's a whole different vibration system. And it's very different, and we can't be needy like that. Those neediness of the past, well, I need to have a man to feel right. Not that.
That's right. It's a again, going back to the balance, it's the balance of the scale. And I feel like that Libra energy coming forth, which is also the water, but it's that balancing of that scale, that we have to be responsible for our whatever energy we bring forth. Our integrity is really, to me, is a really important role in that, and how we stand in that energy. And then once we bring in that energy together, it has to be pure. It has to be pure, because if you're not honest, if you're, let's say you're sleeping with somebody else, or if you're bringing in some sort of black magic you're doing on the side, it has to be pure. And because otherwise you'll never find that sacred union, and you'll constantly be this.
Well, you be kicked out, my dear. Like in a sacred, when we call sacred divine union, they're like literally 3 tiers. It always reminds me of Isis wings, the 3 tiers, the 3 suns. You're going through the galactic sun, the central sun, to our sun here. It ain't no joke here. There's a lot of light radiating. Yes. You better believe the ultimate witness is witnessing you. So you you're so naked in your soul, like everything is revealed. So as a result of it, the responsibility, integrity of first to self, to the I am, is beyond anything. Michael and I do have a very strong practice. My practice has been for several years. So when we came together, it was very much like this. Like my daily practice is everything. Everything starts with that daily practice. And I had him, and he had a practice. I was like, we ain't going anywhere until you get this practice, however is yours, because we can't serve together unless you have a very strong practice. All your stuff is aligned, and you are, how do I want to say it? You are in integrity before we can. So that becomes, so imagine when we're service to facilitating healing sessions, we have events, we have workshops, right? Everything has to be very integral, very pure, because we'll get kicked out. They won't, the revelation in which they work through us won't take place. So that's why our morning practice is so key. And he's become more and more amazing. The more he's gone into it, he's experienced more, and the team has gotten bigger, the Ascension team working through him. So we do that, then we bring that energy together so that we can exchange, So it does require, require very strong personal responsibility. And I feel that's where, in the feminine energy of the past, has been in the victim role so much in leaking her energy, and the Magdalene consciousness has nothing to do with that. It's like you are responsible for everything. It includes also that sexual abuse trauma you had. You take full responsibility of that. It takes you to a whole different level of consciousness,
Yeah. It's amazing how whatever you speak of is like I feel like you are me.
We speak the same vibration.
Yes, I could just sit here and just say yes to everything you're saying, and I just add to whatever you're saying because it's just.
And I will have you on as well on my page, so
I
get to sit back and hear you, which I know you'll say.
And you'll sit back and you'll do this.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's amazing how it's so aligned.
Yeah.
It's so aligned, and it's because that is the frequency.
Well, that's the frequency, because we were in the same teaching together when during that time. I know, I don't know what memories you have, but I mean, I came back with full memory, and I don't really share much about it other than I know who I was during that time. And we were part very close to Yeshua and Mary Magdalene. We were part of those teachings, and we all were spread apart to carry the work. And there's a truth that we know that is very threatening to the Western culture, and we all have had to be separated different parts of Earth to slowly bringing it through. But we know the same frequency because we know it when we were also in Atlantis, and we know it when we were in Lemuria. It's been coming back again and again and again, and it's the same frequency, and that's why we know each other's signature very quickly, and we see through each other like just. We see each other's codes. Like I see your codes very easily. It's like effortless. And the beauty of this moment that we chose to show up, as I have recognized what they have shared, is it was like a time capsule. We were spread apart, and there's a time capsule for all of us, just so that we can build the frequency enough and go through the integration enough individually, so then when we come together, it's full force. There is no holding back, so it's a full embodiment of that truth, and we don't suppress the information because we had to before, but now the vibration holds it.
My feeling is also that we are all married to Yeshua, and we and the man that is
nothing makes me more smart than that. His many wives, of course.
And he incarnated many times after, and he had many wives, and we were all there with him, and so the love that we have for him is so beyond. It's beyond any physicality, or it's just a remembrance once again of this love, and in a way our own sacred union with him. And we're remembering this, and it's now that we're here incarnated in this body, we say we want the same kind of bond that we had with Yeshua.
But I feel it's also reversed to Valeria with some of the men that are called to us like Magdalene energy.
Yes.
Like what Michael feels like it's completely the same, you know. And I feel that's why we're drawn to the men that look a little bit like Yeshua. Like I told Michael, I was like, no beard. My love is conditional on earth. You might have a beard, it won't work. He's like, you're supposed to be unconditional. I said, I know that. Everything is unconditional, exception. There's a one strong exception. No beard, no long hair. No, like it is a total. Yes. I am very much embracing my humanness in the middle of this.
Absolutely, and you must, because otherwise we're just going to be floating in the ethereals.
Yeah. No, totally.
But that's important too, that we have this physical connection as well, because our sacral chakras need to come together in that way. Otherwise, we won't come together in that way.
Exactly. I mean, completely. And you know, and I loved what you say. I remember, like every time that I fully go in this space. So when I do my morning practice, there's a part when I meet with the Ascension team, saying hello to everybody, greeting every single one of them that are inside, you know, just meeting that presence. And when I come to Yeshua, Mary Magdalene is always, when I come to that place, but if I allow myself, there's like a little bit of a sort of like a ditone where immediately moves me to the moment where I met him in the spirit side. Like the frequency is so grand that I feel that the love is so is beyond any word that can ever embrace, or what he was able to embody and in his becoming is truly impressive. And that's what motivates me. That's what inspires me. Not even motivates me. That's what I live for, that resurrection. Every time I step even more into my resurrection flame, like I feel him inside my cells. And I've had the true honor and pleasure only 3 times. So when I go into a channeling for the event, so I'm a fully incorporated channeler. So the presence completely comes through me and speaks. But only 3 times Yeshua has come. Mm-hmm. And it's a vibration in which my physical vessel, the distance of it is way too far. And when he comes up for a couple of days, I can't talk at all. I can't do anything because it's so the love is beyond anything that has ever touched me on that. And when he comes in, the longing to be with him is so severe. And so when his frequency comes in, there's one thing for me to auditory communicate with that. I'm good with that. But the minute he comes in and has entered into my body, my consciousness has a very hard time handling that, because it's so grand. It's so gigantic, and the grace of it, we still don't really know what grace is. We're getting there. Hopefully on earth we'll eventually get there, but it feels like a very long distance till we get there, because what him and Mary Magdalene were able to bring forth is truly inspiring. And when she comes in, it's not as severe as his. He was able to get to a place that is truly remarkable, like really, really remarkable, which I feel I understand in Catholicism. I understand in Christianity they really embrace them, but they don't really they embrace them from the mental body. There's a different embracing that's very different.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you say that he was in a further into consciousness, I'm assuming, than Mary. That she's known as the queen of the heavens, right? The queen of heaven, the queen of the angels, and he's the king of the angels. And somehow the king sits further up than the queen. Can you explain that? Why you feel that?
The way I experience it, I can only experience it when my consciousness. By the way, there's a full video, 30 minutes I have that I go into very detail what happened.
Where is it?
It's a YouTube video. I can send the link to you.
Yes.
It's very detailed, meeting the Arcturian Elder Councils and what happened. And there's just so much details in that. And I was asked to create the temples on earth, but there's a whole lot in there. Yeshua, through Mary Magdalene, he was able to experience the resurrection. And the resurrection is not what has been said on earth. He was able to tap into Godhood. So we're right now working on our diamond bodies. Like, for example, I facilitate what's called the light body transmission activation, where I assist with the light language, multiple different languages, light, to clear the 12 chakras and then bring the light codes through. So it's a one-time activation, done, person goes. But it's very fast, very galactic, and get them adjusted in the vibration of diamond body through the whole diamond plates of the cosmos, diamond plate of Mother Earth, and what have you. Okay. Why I'm sharing this with is important. Mary Magdalene helped Yeshua in this, and she was the container in this resurrection. So we're in the diamond body. From the diamond body, some of us are starting to work on the plasma body. From the plasma body is the solar body, which not people on the planet are yet in their solar body. And then there's the God body. He achieved that. He was able to bring that through. That's why there is the illumination of him. And she is the one who assisted in his, because what do? We're the container.
Like the womb.
Exactly. When we're in the sacred divine feminine, then it can rise. It's like the mountain. The only reason why the mountain is a mountain is because of the valley of it. So we hold that so they can rise. That's what there's that vertical and horizontal axis. This is very, very important. The X and the Y axis. It's very important. So he was able to rise up in that and become the realized state and emanated, because she held as the divine creative force allowing that. And so he sits farther up, because and what that is from our human consciousness, we don't understand it, because in these different dimensional field of consciousness, all it has to do is how much love you're able to emanate. You're able to be in a different dimension. So most people don't understand that, because we're thinking of it in a hierarchy, like the ascended masters. They all are in a different vibration field, but they've reached a place. And then we have different dimensional consciousness, but how much love they're able to emanate through their presence is they're able to go to the next level of their journey of really Godhood is what it is, how much they're able to bring in, and who oversees what. He was able to get pretty high up, and there's some of the ones that are even higher than him, and but he's most well-known one on the planet. And when we work with some of the team is like our star families, like the Arcturians, they achieved it so much higher, faster before, but they're not really as much talked about and what have you. So
and they're in human form.
Who in the
Arcturians?
Well, some are. I won't quite say it, verbalize it that way. Is the starseeds, like for example, those of us who are Arcturian starseeds, we have seeded ourselves onto the planet where our other body is on the ship, and the other body is in the future. The other body is here, and the other body is not quite in its fullness of the Arcturian body, Like when I experience moving into the mothership of Athena, seeing my Arcturian body, it's not this body, it's a complete different body, but in its human form, extension is in this representation.
And
See?
to me, the Arcturians carry the golden heart.
Absolutely, absolutely, because they've gone through their ascension process already. They're highly, highly intelligent, and they really are working on Earth. Two things: yes, the heart is a huge part of them, but they also work with the mind of divine. So they're helping, because particularly the Western world is very focused on the mind. They're working on the divine mind. So that's why the language, like, it's very much when I speak that, it's very much activating this, so that the divine mind opens up and it's fully in connection with the divine heart. It's not in separation at all, because everything has to be aligned in that.
Well, I think we're going to go now, but I really want to continue this conversation. I want to take a moment to just quiet moment, just you and I. Okay. Thank you. It feels like whatever we were exchanging has been integrated.
Yes, absolutely. So grateful to you, my beloved sister. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this celebration. Thank you for the great divine mother creator, and to the mother earth, and her new earth, her new frequency, her diamonds, her unity flower, and Magdalene frequency on the planet, all the sisterhood around the planet, and the brotherhood of light, and just the beginning of many, many encounters through this. And I couldn't be more grateful to introduce several people to you that are dedicated to this. So you continue and you share this very important platform in honoring this frequency. I'm so humbled to be your first guest today, and all that we were able to exchange in this data file share, today.
It's been a gift to me as well. I want you to just share your information with the guests, and maybe your website, your social media.
Sure. Best way to contact me is Facebook through Honi Borden Author, Speaker, Healer fan page. That's the page Michael and I use, and eventually it's going to be changed to our page. The name has been given.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, I was waiting for both Yeshua and Mary Magdalene to just give the name. So we finally received the game. We're very, very excited for that, and that will be transformed. My Instagram is HoniB1111, and email is honib@gmail.com. And a couple of things we do have every other Friday tea time Ascension talk. Michael and I will be just speaking about what's going on, the frequencies, and what's been going on individually. And it's a free one we share. And every month we have a lot of free service, because it's very important to extend the light. And every month we have a sacred Sunday spiritual service, which is our Sunday church right here. We have opened our home and we invite people. It's totally free. We have a guest speaker, and that's also on live stream on our YouTube. Free, people can watch, just so that the energy, the rippling continues to go and the messages continues to be spread and shared. And we travel and teach a lot. We're, all over the place. So it's best to get connected. And if you can, come to one of our events, or if you feel called, reach out. And if you're feeling really called for the light codes transmission, and people who are starseeds, they know it. Because there's a lot of the Magdalene womb in this that also connects with the dragons, and Magdalene Consciousness is one of the languages that is in there. You'll know it. Just email me and we go from there. It's very fast and off you go.
When is your next event?
So my next event is, let's see, we just got back from Costa Rica. Next one, we have next week, Sunday, we have the Sacred Spiritual Service. And our guest speaker is Chino. I remember he's very connected to this. Then we have, I have the light language event, the light code transmission activation at the Phoenix Rising in Virginia. Then we're in South Carolina. Then we're in Toronto. Then a couple of more things. Then we're back in Europe for our 6-week tour. So a lot is happening. Just staying in touch, and we go from there.
Wonderful. I just want to let you know that I decided to wear a necklace today, and I chose the HoniB.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, of course, it's the very important part of this.
Yes.
That energy with Egypt is so important, so sacred. She is the ultimate nectar.
Yes.
So, yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much. I love you so much.
I love you, Valerie.
I feel you in my heart.
Yeah.
And I'm honored to have you as my first guest. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I like to just end this with offering a transmission sound.
Yes.
And yeah, it will be wonderful for the guests.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Likamua tayakiatu. Iramaya kayalataku. Irakua turamaya I. Siramoa kualatami. Ikalayo shua kuarama. Ilamaya kuarataya. Likamua tayamaya ki. Umakaya turaku. Kiamaya tu. Likamua turaku. Lakayatia kurama. Ilatayamua shurakayati. Lahuatia kiami atiahi. Ilahuramaya kuatu. Lahuamu kuamu huamu turamu. Kuame, ekeame, eteame, etletame, kuatuamua, kuatu. Thank you so much for letting me transmit sound, language, as this is all about the sacredness of the diamond plates of the bees that travel as the containers of the sacred feminine energy from the Orion. And these are the sacred Orions, because the Orions have a couple of different sectors where they've had a bad rep in the cosmos, but they're very pure ones dedicated to the sacred divine feminine. So thank you so much for letting me share that.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So much love.
So much love, dear sister. Until next time.
Until next time. It is done. It is so. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so I stopped the video, but I will see you soon, love.
Thank you so much, my darling. You will hang up, correct?
Yes. Thank you.
Have a beautiful day. Thank you so much.
Bye.